Our first guest tonight served with far greater distinction than I could ever dream of. He was a senior non-commissioned officer in our elite Special Air Service Regiment and dedicated the best years of his life to this nation. Being selected to serve in the Special Air Service Regiment is a major achievement for anyone. The process is incredibly mentally and physically challenging. They are an exceptional group of men. Over my 4 decades in uniform, I came to know many of them and was privileged to serve alongside them on operations occasionally. Harry Moffit served in East Timor, Iraq and Afghanistan. For most people, that would represent a pretty full life. But Harry Moffit is now a psychologist, a published author and a high-performance coach. He also does valuable pro bono work supporting veterans, particularly providing educational opportunities through his in-service education program, for which he's raised over $2 million. He's also very actively involved in the scholarship program of Wandering Warriors, where I had the pleasure to meet him. He's a published author and a self-described cricket tragic, which gives us something else in common. If you've not got his terrific book, 11 Bats, then I really urge you to buy it. It's a terrific insight into the demands of serving as a Special Forces operator, and Harry's love of cricket leaps from every page, but you don't need to like cricket to love this book. Harry Moffit, welcome to the McGregor Angle.
Thanks for having me, Catherine. Pleasure to be here.
Good to see you again. Look, Harry, like many veterans of the Afghan conflict, you're watching with concern as the country teeters on the brink of collapse. And the nation is actually scheduled to play a test match against Australia in Hobart, commencing on 27 November. What's your sense? Do you really expect the Afghan state to survive and function until then?
It may function in part till then, but I don't hold hope for the future of Afghanistan. I think the Taliban and the Al-Qaeda accord now together, I think they will exact some telling revenge across the country, and I fear for a lot of people who worked with us overseas, as well as other people who may be perceived to. So I think we're in for a long, hard and probably traumatic few years in Afghanistan.
Yeah. And certainly, I know that will actually reactivate some trauma amongst our fellow veterans. But I want to cut to the chase on a wonderful initiative which you're very involved with. And the date of 11 September, of course, will mark a period of commemoration featuring veteran rock and roll bands, some big names, Swanee, one of the Wiggles. And I didn't know until this morning, by the way, that Swanee actually served in the Royal Australian Regiment. Can you tell us a little bit about this Remembrance rock tour that you've participated in, Harry? And I gather you're not a bad vocalist in addition to your other very long CV.
I'll leave that to the judgment of the audience on the night. But
right.
Look, we know September 11 is going to bring mixed emotions across the whole veteran and current serving community and the families as well. There's hundreds of thousands of current serving and living veterans in Australia. And those mixed emotions need really to go somewhere. I understand that now as a psychologist. And I think we can learn from the past, from Korea and Vietnam, at least in living memory for most of us, on how we deal with how veterans are commemorated. And I think more than just a parade or a couple of key dates, I think there's an opportunity here for some protracted commemorations. And I think it never been done before. Rock tour, there's some amazing veterans out there in our community. Anthony Field from the Wiggles, Swanee, the brother of Jimmy Barnes, both veterans. And then we've managed to find almost a dozen other bands and musicians who are amazing. So we're hoping to showcase them over 4 dates over summer, COVID permitting, of course.
Let's hope. And Harry, you drew my attention to the poignant story of a young fellow, 6 RAR soldier who was blinded effectively in an IED incident, young Liam Haven. Tell us a little about his story.
Yes, so Liam's an Iraq veteran living in Perth at the moment, and he was blinded by a roadside bomb in Iraq, in Baghdad. Actually, I think it was maybe been down south in Basra. But he's living in Perth now. He just went into the studio. He's recording a couple of original songs. All of the artists that we'll be featuring have original music, which is key. And we hope to partner up with a couple of potential partners to release an album for September 11, and we're also hoping to garner support from the federal and state governments too, to help us get that up and running and get Liam out and his great music onto the road.
Well, look, I know I'm speaking for Paul Murray, who does Our Town, and we've had a chat about supporting this in some way, and I spoke to Wingman Breweries, who sponsors both of us, about looking at some venues to get this show on the road. He's absolutely wrapped with the concept. I think it's extraordinary. Tell me a little bit about the externals, mate. That's your band, and what's your role in there? Where do you bat in the lineup in that one?
I suppose I open, which is unusual. One of my mates said my book should have been called Bats 11, not 11 Bats, because I'm a first change into the wind, uphill into the wind bowler. So the externals, okay. we've been playing with the externals. They originated in the SAS regiment back in 1990. It was a bit of fun, a bit of way to unwind and process a lot of the extreme experience and training that we underwent. We've recorded 7 albums over our time. But we're just one of a number of bands who have been kicking along in the background. Tony Quentin, Stella Anning, Liz Smith and the Lancer Band are probably more well known. Music's such a great therapy, Catherine, for service, for all people who have a life of service, and we're really looking forward to getting this tour up and running and sharing that with the veteran and current serving community.
Totally understand that, Harry. And Liam did allude to what a change to his life picking music up in 2008 made. But look, we could spend the entire program here and not even scratch the surface of the hazards you faced during your multiple deployments. But we discussed, during the week, I want to tap your military training as well as your psychological training for one wrap question here, and that is that Special Forces selection demands periods of isolation, and you go silent with no feedback or encouragement. Tonight, many of our viewers are feeling very isolated. We've seen calls to Lifeline absolutely through the roof, although, funnily, the statistics on suicide have not deviated all that much. But a lot of Australians simply can't see the end of the trek, and they're starting to break down. And I just wonder, as a psychologist and as someone who's had to endure in isolation and going dark, as it were, what are some of the resources and little tips you might offer to people about resilience and about surviving the sort of weird time that so many of our countrymen are in tonight?
Yeah, it's a tough time, and one of the big things that we probably don't consider too much is just the sheer uncertainty. When you take away certainty about the future, certainty about the environment around us, it creates stress, and sometimes that is subconscious. I guess for us in Special Forces, and certainly in the SAS, I can talk about. We are fortunate. We can test people for literally for months on end and get the right personality. So some of the characteristics that we look for are a bricolage or a sense of creativity, a sense of humour. Self-starting and highly motivated types. So we have insight into what the characteristics are. But what we also know is that they have some common themes in how they deal with uncertainty in tough times, and they have good routines, good mental routines, and they're quite deliberate about how they structure their time. And I know this is not the silver bullet that everyone's looking for, but routine is just critical to dealing with this. They tend to shrink their horizon or break up their days and weeks and periods, bring the certainty or make certainty in those days and chunk up their day. For example, if you're at home and feeling pretty stressed or feeling different, a sense of uncertainty, then that routine and chunking up your day into achievable breaks, that happens naturally for a lot of those people. The big thing I've read and experienced myself is that those people who accept the reality about their own limitations as well as the environment around them tend to do better. And when they structure their days and week, they'll tend to place a really high value on what they're eating, or more importantly, what they're not eating, ensuring they're getting up at the same time every morning. We can't all go to bed at the same time, often with work and other commitments and families, but getting structured around that, and also getting out and leaving the immediate environment as often as you can in a routine way. So they're pretty boring things, but I think what's key is a lot of people those types in the SAS and Special Forces do the boring stuff really, really well, do the boring brilliantly, if you like, and I think that's key.
I think some of those sound like great ISO tips, and none of which I'm adhering to at the moment, mate. My apologies, but good drills, good drills. Look, I want to blindside you with one final question to wrap up on. If you had to look around the great cricketers you've seen in your lifetime, mate, and pick one that you think's got the attributes to make a special operator, who'd you pick?
Good. Straight away, Doug Walters comes to mind. You want to say Tibby Cotter, Shane Warne, Miller, but probably the one that sticks out for me, my favourite cricketer of all time, Jacques Cullis. Quite professional, one of the hardest working guys in his peer group. He's brilliant at the basics, and I think that's the key thing in isolation, winding your environment and your timelines right in and focusing on what's up next and chunking your day and getting through each iteration of life as it presents and moving to the next one. And I think he was elite at doing that.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, mine would be Raoul Dravid, but we'll talk about that next time we speak at a Wandering Warriors event. Harry, stay safe in lockdown, and we will talk again, I pledge to you, because this tour, I don't want to let go of this, and I know my colleagues feel the same. All the best, Harry, and thanks for joining the McGregor Angle.
Thanks very much, Catherine. Appreciate it.